The Burroughs Wellcome Fund has always taken a position of looking for areas that are underfunded, undervalued, building it up, and once it expands, letting it go, and looking for something else that's underfunded. It's been around for 60 years. Can't believe we were both born in 1955, so I find that hilarious.
It's so critical that there be flexible, nimble organizations like the Burroughs Wellcome Fund, which can provide funding with minimal red tape and in a rapid fashion to take advantage of opportunities when they exist.
Burroughs Wellcome saw the merit in what I wanted to do, and that investment helped me build up what I needed to get the first structures of the Ebola virus, then opened up our whole research program from then on out. That funding was absolutely instrumental, and I don't think I could have built the lab without it.
We, I think, provide a bit of an anchor, a bit of security in a positive sense. And so we say this is an individual that we think has great potential, and we think that he or she will have a long and distinguished career.
As a kid, I told everyone I was going to be a herpetologist. There were lots of lizards that lived around my house, and I would go hunt them down and try to capture them and make them pets. But as I matured throughout high school, I had a friend whose father showed me a book on special relativity, and I thought that was very cool. And the real action was in physics. And only at the end of my PhD, when I realized that, in fact, there might be a way to connect back to my biological interests, did I re-pursue some of these, and that's been my career ever since.
Both my parents were public school teachers, so they had the whole summer off. And so they would bundle the two kids and the tents and the sleeping bags and the backpacks into the back of the station wagon, and we would take 8-week camping trips up one coast and into Canada or down into Mexico. And so that was a really good exposure to the natural world and the ecology of how things fit together. And that's been a really good intellectual framework for our work, because we study viruses, and viruses exist in an environment and an ecology, and it's the interactions of the people in that environment that cause the viruses to spread.
The Burroughs Wellcome Fund, of course, in the early days of faculty life, provided a source of money which could be used for wherever my curiosity took me. Not only allowed me to pursue, but gave me the stamp of approval that I could pursue it to the department that hired me, to the research community. And the little lizard called the sandfish that swims in sand, when I started the project 8 years ago, it just was sort of, in some sense, a curiosity-driven line of research. What does this little animal do when it gets within the sand, which no one had ever, for the most part, seen? And has actually turned into an interesting system to explore principles of movement more broadly, and also has allowed us to make contributions to a kind of practical field of engineering, which allows us to calculate the forces and movements of wheels moving through sand. It all sort of started by trying to understand how a little lizard wiggles through the desert. And so this money allowed me to really do it in a serious way with the basis support, which was important.
Burroughs was critical at 2 points in my career. First, they got me going out of the starting gates. And then at another critical juncture, where we wanted to expand just from molecular studies in one kind of virus to going into field studies on other kinds of more common viruses, the Burroughs Wellcome Fund was there too. They helped us get started in arenaviruses, really common viruses. There's hundreds of thousands of cases of, for example, Lassa fever every year. And there's so much of it that we're able to work at a permanent research lab in Africa, where we can work with the field scientists, the ecologists, the doctors, and develop diagnostics and bring the molecular work to the people and the patients that are suffering from this virus. If the Burroughs Wellcome Fund had never invested and never gotten my lab launched, I think we'd have a much more focused scope. I think I'd be struggling to just keep the structural biology going. So it'd be a much smaller group with a much smaller scope, and we wouldn't be able to think about the real world problems. I also would never have been able to interact with the Burroughs Wellcome Fund's family of scientists. And from interacting with all those different people, I'm able to broaden the perspective and see more avenues of how these pathogens interact with each other and with the immune system.
All right, so once you get all your volumes in, you have to make sure all your volumes are at the bottom. So each person needs to take a couple of...
We've seen young people move from kindergarten, get their doctorate degree and become, scientists. It's fascinating to watch. It is a process to move kids into that level of achievement. It can be done for any kid in North Carolina or beyond. We have to be willing to give them the opportunity. So the fund has a definite place in the future. It will forever change. There is no set formula for what we do and how we do. The mission, however, will remain the same going forward. So the fund has a good future ahead. I'm looking forward to it.
I think I can say from reading about Mr. Wellcome that he would be pleased because he committed a lot of money over the years to research. One of the remarkable statistics is that in one of our programs in which we've given over 100 awards, only about 3 or 4 of them are no longer in research. And that says we made some good choices, since that's our goal, is to fund research. And so our satisfaction isn't from what we've done, our satisfaction is what the people who we've funded, what they've done. It's very satisfying.